Okay, let's talk about harmonies. Harmonies are when you have two or more notes sounding at the same time, but the most common form of harmony we use is something called a chord. And the most basic chord has three notes in it. It's called a triad because it has three notes. And the way you build a triad in a scale is you start on one of the notes of the scale and you skip every other note until you get your three notes. So here I am with my C scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and so on. And if I wanted to build a C chord using this scale, I would pick this note right here, which is a C. I'd skip the next note in the scale, and I'd pick the E, skip the next note right there, and get the G. See, I've got three notes now, triad, and it takes every other note after the starting note of wherever I decided to pick in the scale. So here's my scale, and then I'll pick. We call this a C chord because it starts on the note C, but we also call it a one chord because in relation to the scale, it starts on the first note of the scale. If I wanted to build a two chord, then I would start on note number 2, which is a D right there, skip the next note, and skip the next note until I got my three notes. And that's a D chord, and it's also called a two chord. Okay. Now I want to just take a moment and talk about that hierarchy of what's important that we were talking about before with melodies. If you haven't seen that yet, basically the idea is that a scale organizes not just what notes you can use, but the order of what's important. Melody notes number 1 and also chords built on the first note of a scale are more important than any other chord. Another interesting phenomenon in the music that we listen to is generally notes starting on 5 in the scale, or chords starting on note number 5, are second most important, and they tend to want to push us back to the one chord. So many songs can be made up of just those two chords themselves. So first off, notes from the one chord, okay, and then notes from the 5 chord. And you'll have pieces of music that just go back and forth. Many songs are made up of just patterns that you're familiar with. You start on the one chord, and then you can pick other chords, and there are better choices than others depending on what kind of sound you want. But then eventually they run into the 5 chord. So I'm going to go one chord, and then I'm going to go to my 4 chord. That's the chord built on the 4th scale, and then my 5 chord, which takes us back to the 1 chord. And you can make more elaborate patterns like 1, 6, 4, and then 5. And I apologize to do this to you, but just case in point. Is 1, 6, 4, 5, which takes us back to there. Many songs like Blue Moon and others based on it have the same chord progression. 1, 6, 2, 5. And you can also look at many songs and just call out the numbers and build them harmonies basically off of those notes. So Beatles, 5, 6, 4, 1, 5, 6, 5, 4, 1, which is Let It Be by the Beatles. And that's how harmonies work. Now it is possible to make more complex harmonies and to juxtapose more than one scale on top of each other. All kinds of innovations can be done, but at its heart, that's what it is. And like I said before, when somebody says what key you're in, they're asking you what scale you're using. Are you using a major scale or a minor scale? That determines the flavor of the overall piece of music. Are you using, when they say what key are you in, they're also asking you where's your tonal center or where's your note number 1, because that tells you where home is, okay? I'm going to switch to minor key for a minute just so you can hear the difference. 1, 2 chord next, and then a 5 chord, which then wants to pull us back to 1 chord. I'll do that again, but we'll do something a little different. 1, 2, now I'm going to my 5, and I'm going to do something different. Kind of faked you out. That's called a deceptive cadence, and that's when 5 goes to 6 instead of 1. And you'll hear that at the end of many songs that then go, oh, we were just kidding. We really meant. And arrive back at 1.